Cooling Road to the Blue Map. We want to thank everybody for tuning in again this week. Obviously, want to thank our sponsors, Watkins Heating and Cooling. Brad Watkins, my man, will be coming down for the Fife and Coosa game this week. Looking forward to hanging out with him. If you have anything to do with heating and cooling in your house or business, please contact Brad Watkins at Watkins Heating and Cooling. Also, our game-by-game breakdown will be brought to you by Countertop Creations. Tommy Wyman and Company does a fantastic job located there in Rainbow City, Alabama, but they will handle any of your countertop needs. They specialize in granite countertops, and I know, and you know, if you food with granite countertops, you don't do that by yourself. That's impossible. Let the experts do it. If you need ideas, just want to check things out, or just let them take a look at what you got going on currently, please hit those guys up at Countertop Creations. Guys, another week of football. We've got some huge games on the docket this week. We got some games that are very interesting. We got rivalry games. So what we're going to do right now, and we got helmet stickers. I think we got multiple helmet stickers this week. As you guys seen the graphic Chandler made earlier of all of our previous winners so far, that thing's blowing up online right now, so let's keep that ball rolling. We're going to kick things off with 2A. We're going to start with 2A, so you guys can get ready. Those following along want to jump in here and watch some of this right here. We're going to start this thing off with 2A action this week. And some of these games how they got them listed on our workout sheet.
It's weird.
It is weird.
Very weird.
But some of our local teams will be categorized in the classification they're playing against. So like this week right here, we're going to talk about Central Coosa is at Sacs. You know, Sacs being 1-4 on the season. This is a game Sacs desperately needs, and Central Coosa is 0-5 on the year. Talk to us about that one right there, Chandler.
Well, you know, Sacs played really well last week against a really good Walter Welborn team that's actually undefeated. And I feel like Sacs is getting better each and every week. I feel like coaches got them believing. You know, honestly, man, like it's a tough go for them because of their schedule. Like they have to play really good competition. Well, now they finally get to play a Central Coosa team that's coming in 0-5. Coach Flowers, first-year head coach there, does a really good job. He's a very good coach, but that's just a tough place to go in and win. But I really believe that they've got their guys believing and getting moving in the right direction. They finished last year with a win. And they played really well against Piedmont.
We watched them in 7-on-7 at Gadsden at Coosa this year, and they look really well athlete-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I feel like that they just got to keep competing. They played well against, got a win against Weaver 2 weeks ago, and so. Ja'Cory Avery is a guy that makes plays for them. Shannon Noel makes plays for them. Delandis Allen had 16 tackles 2 weeks ago. They've got some guys that are starting believing, and they're playing well. Like I said, I think that Coach Frienda does an outstanding job. I think it's just going to take time. Like, when Coach Miller left, that was a tough blow for that program. They lost a ton of seniors his last year. It's kind of a complete rebuild, and people don't like to hear that. But you could look at Sacs last year, look at them up front on the offensive, defensive line, and tell that it was going to be difficult. Those guys compete. They play extremely hard. I really believe that they can continue to improve, and I think they got a chance to win the football game this week.
I do too. They need this one. This is one they need to get rolling in the back half of that schedule, try to make a run for the playoffs.
Exactly
You know what's interesting about Coosa Central? Put 2 players in NFL, put 1 in the NBA. How many 3As, 2As can say that? Really interesting.
Very limited.
Yep.
Beckett, we're going to kick this thing over to you. We're going to talk about the Gaston Bulldogs. They're going to be traveling to Whitesboro Christian. Both these teams are 1-3 on the year. Both of these teams desperately need a win at this point.
Yeah, disappointing start for Gaston. Got a lot of players out, and 1-3 start is not really what they were looking for, and a manageable front half of the schedule. Another game that there's a chance to win. Whitesburg's a big favorite, but I think Gaston can play in this game. Last week, Chapman Clay, the move-in quarterback, 5'14", 85 yards. Devin Green, who they first-year senior, a really talented basketball player, had 2 big catches. And Keller Skaggs played a long time there. Noah Cohen moved from quarterback to 84 had 84 yards. So they need even bigger numbers this week. Whitesburg, got to see them up close against Sylvania. Really moved the ball second half and did some really good things offensively.
So I didn't know Devin Green was playing. They got him at tight end or receiver or what?
Yeah, he's a skill throwing the ball to him. I think he runs the ball a little bit, and man, that's a
That's a target now.
Yeah, he is. He's a college football body.
Yeah, ain't no doubt.
And big time
He's
basketball
more of
player.
a look like a college football body than a college basketball body.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's tall enough to play college basketball, but man, he's got a frame of a tight end for sure. Ain't no doubt. Back to you over here, Mr. Chandler. Are you ready for this one? I'm going to talk about Horseshoe Bend, who's 2-2 in the year. They're traveling to White Plains. You know, White Plains have been bitten by the injury bug big time.
Yeah, looking at White Plains, and this one is a difficult one for me to talk about because I was there. But 1-3 is White Plains. Losers of 3 straight. But you got to think about they had to play Hoax Bluff 2 weeks ago. They played Cherokee County this past
God
week.
Almighty. Talk about a meat grinder.
Yeah, and then Alexandria before that, who was a physical type team as well. This is a game going into the year that they felt like they had a good opportunity to win. This is a game you schedule. It's homecoming. You feel like you got a good chance to beat Horseshoe Bend. They're a 2A program. But Horseshoe Bend comes into this game 2-2. And you talk about White Plains, man, like, don't want to list any names, but they've lost some key contributors that's really going to hurt them. People that they needed to try to get on track and to try to win football games will probably be out this week, and that's going to hurt their chances. I know Coach Jennings is doing an outstanding job. His staff does an outstanding job. Man, those kids play extremely hard. The school is balled in. And it's just their touchdown club does an outstanding job. It's tough, and then when you have injuries and you already don't have a whole lot of depth, injuries kill you even more than it does at other schools. And so they don't have a ton of depth. There's not a whole lot of kids out for a 4A football program. But they're going to play hard, and I think they still have a chance to win this football game. But if they do, Rodney Perry is going to have an unbelievable ball game. He's going to have to carry the load with some of the injuries that they got. I think Rodney is finally grew into his, finally matured and is playing really hard. But he's going to have a big football game. He's going to have to carry that team on his back in order for them to have a chance to win on Friday night. Hey, and you know, another thing about this, before we go any further, some of these games, like, weather's going to affect some of these games. You never know what can happen Friday night. Like
the latest projections I've seen that it is moving more east, and they're saying, I don't know how they're saying this because it's just now in Cuba, but they're saying it's going to be completely out of here by Friday. I don't know what they're talking about.
That's what they take a good educated guess.
I don't. You see what I'm saying?
On a serious note,
I mean,
on a serious note,
you don't know.
Prayers to the people that we know that are in the Gulf and in that area. That's
my
gonna
wife's
get hit,
in Tampa, Florida.
That's going to get hit by it really hard. And then on a joking manner, leave it to a woman to mess up football. Hurricane Helene, leave it to a woman to mess up. I
didn't say that. His name's Chandler Tyree. You can at him at Primetime Sports.
But seriously, I got family that live in Port St. Joe.
My wife's in Tampa. So
that Mexico Beach, like all that place right there, like they're about to get hammered, and so our prayers go out to them. On a serious note, football is very tiny, very small in the big scheme of things, but we're talking about people's lives here, so prayers go out to them.
100%. Right here, I'm gonna keep it with you, Chandler. Talk about this Pisgah team right now. 4-0, and it ain't been a quiet 4-0. They jumped out, beat 5, and then they started rolling, and then you jump in here, and you're in the Pruitt Bowl last week. You win that one, and then you got a very tough Randolph. Here's the kicker on this one now. According to the experts, they're a 2-point dog coming into this game. If it didn't need any more hype, or they didn't need any more
go ahead and give them. Like,
go ahead and give them some more information.
Let's give them some blackboard material. Like, let's give them some chalkboard material. Like they need it.
No disrespect to Randolph.
They have become one of my favorite teams, just the way they play the game. They have one of my favorite players in the Gilbert kid, just an absolute warrior when it comes to. They started a little slow last week in the Pruitt Bowl, which. If you think about it, when you look at Plainview and you have the dad Pruitt, and then you have Jeremy Pruitt, when you got a guy who's been a head coach in the SEC, you got to expect for them to come in and have a good game plan, especially when they know the tendencies of family. So they start out a little slow. That game was really close at halftime last week, and then Pisgah was able to pull away. I think Coach Pruitt does a very good job there. I think they've got a bunch of guys. The Gilbert kid is just a guy I love to talk about because of the way he plays the game week in, week out on both sides of the ball. Like that kind of kid. Like, cramps ain't gonna keep him down. Injuries ain't gonna keep him down. He's a baller.
Football player.
He's a football player, and they got a whole bunch of those kids. They're gonna be a really tough team in 2A. They go up 2 classifications to play a really good 4-1 Randolph team in 4A. But I feel like that with what Pisgah does, they're gonna be in every ball game, and I feel like that. They play at Randolph, so that's another thing. Whenever you got to take high school kids on the road, I don't care what people say, it's a difficult thing to do. You get out of your normal routine. But I like Pisgah, even though they are a dog. And I'm not picking them because I'm not being Coach Beckett, but I like them and I appreciate what they do. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I could possibly pick them because Randolph
and me on the
listen,
same
I could possibly pick them because Randolph is not in one of our coverage area. Beckett picked against one of our coverage area teams.
Yeah, one of our teams are
I
school
tried to
teams.
motivate them, and so
Smart for business.
and it worked pretty well.
It did work pretty well. Coach Mann said you need to go in and talk about the offensive line the next week. We almost did, but then we didn't take the bait
They
on that.
cut me out.
I didn't say that out loud, guys. I'm just kidding. Coach Van was like, might need y'all to talk about my offensive line sometime and get them rolling. Beckett, this one right here, this is an interesting game right here for multiple reasons, and those who live in those 2 communities knows what I'm talking about. Sandrock 3-2. Traveling down the mountain to Collinsville right there, right beside our beloved Trade Day on Saturday mornings to Ernie Willingham and company. But this one's a little more dicey this year. We're staying away from why, but there's a reason, and the line's 16. So talk to me about this.
Having been head coach at Collinsville, my father's head coach at Collinsville, I can tell you a little bit of one thing. You know the reason they stopped playing? Got too nasty. Fans, ugliness.
This one's an Alabama-Auburn field.
Yeah, it is. It is a really, and rivalries are what, and it's a little better now. But at that point, it was they had to stop playing. So
What
yes,
years are we talking?
You're talking 90s. You're talking early mid 90s.
They shut it down.
Shut it down for quite a while and came back, which happens periodically in rivalries. But it's back, and it needs to be back for both communities and kids know each other and etc. Sandrock disappointed and had a great second half. Alec Ashley, 16 of 27, 122 yards, had a mad comeback, cut it to 20-13. Kane Robinson scored a touchdown, and they. They needed that one to turn around, and of course you're playing one of your hugest rivalries. Collinsville just took care of business on Thursday night, went ahead and blew out Asbury 62-0. Quintavious, he's the one that
he's real, man.
Yeah, he reminds me regularly to call out his name, and maybe I should. 2 straight weeks, 5 touchdowns again. Quintavious, let's see here. Quintavious had 3. Another. Where is it at? He had 330 yards on 37 carries. Another night at the office. But anyway, should be a goodie. It's at Collinsville, which is an added bonus. Collinsville has the rivalry swung back in their direction after Sandrock really kind of owning it for a while. So, but I think it may be closer than the spread. Look forward to a really good game, and I look forward to Sandrock making a run at them.
Teddy Helms' hair mixed with our man's mustache, Coach Heath's mustache.
Yes.
You would have the perfect white earth. I'm telling you, if you had Teddy Helms' hair and you put that hair on Coach Heath's with Coach Heath's mustache, you would have white earth. I'm telling you, we may have to get the graphic of this before the show's out.
Can Kane Robertson still had 2 touchdowns last week against Pleasant Valley? Can he get back on track and have one of the games? Because I think he's going to have a really good ball game.
Against this one, he is.
Absolutely, great point. He has to have a monster game, and he's capable of it. And he's had that, and they've got to control one of those games where they control the time of possession, really grind them out, and he's got to play Iron Man.
Your best defense is to keep Collinsville's offense off the field as much as possible.
You've got to keep a really good passer, a couple really good receivers, and a great running back off the field.
Listen, you saw people do that last week and give themselves either opportunities to win at the end of the game or they won the football game in last week's action.
And you can't have Milt Quintavious Henderson. You cannot let him have prolific plays. He can't have 70 yards. You've got to bleed them, make them get into 13, 14, 15 play drives.
Yeah.
Ain't no doubt. All right, our next game is going to be I want you to take this one right here. Pleasant Valley is traveling over to Woodland. Pleasant Valley, huge win last week.
Yeah, that was a massive win. We've talked about it all year. Their goal was to not only make the playoffs, they made it last year. Their goal was to try to host a playoff game. And you had to win last week's in order for that to be a possibility. Everybody knows that Pisgah is the front runner in that region, but in order to keep that hopes alive, you had to win last week's ball game against a really, really much improved Sandrock team that we just got done talking about, with a really good running back and some really good players, and a coach like Alan Heath, who has the best mustache in our area and does a really good job. And he's just, you can't say enough good things about him. Loved my time with him whenever he was the OC for Will Wagner at Mumford, whenever they had their heydays and was making runs to the semifinals. But the one thing I didn't know going into last week's game, so Braxton Salster actually hurt his wrist against Pisgah the week before, starting quarterback for Pleasant Valley. So he had to move to running back, and Jaden Sparks had to step in at quarterback for them. Did a really good job of controlling the game, not making any crazy turnovers, just being a good game manager. Actually had a couple of runs for touchdowns himself, I believe. But Salster stepped in at running back, ran it 7 times for 109 yards and a touchdown, caught 1 pass for 22 yards, and added 22 tackles defensively. So quarterback moves away from quarterback, gets a little bit more time defensively. I think we need to keep him on defense. 22 tackles is some people's whole entire year, and he had it in one night. And so that was a big reason why they were able to limit that prolific run game for Sandrock last week. I see them doing the same thing. Woodland is 1-3, 1A Woodland. Pleasant Valley's coming off a really big win, but I don't see them kind of buying into the rat poison. I see them staying focused after they played 2 really good opponents. They've played 2 undefeated opponents, and that's why they have 2 losses, Spring Garden and Pisgah, and that's their 2 losses on the year. I see them winning again and making their record 4-2 in a big non-region win against Woodland this week.
Dude,
I picked again. Sorry.
You pick it. Man, what's up with y'all? You and Beckett, man.
Hanging around too long.
You guys
Woodland's
what's that word?
Procrastinator.
Procrastination. That don't mean you're slow.
Yeah.
That means you're picking games, right?
That's right.
No.
Am I wrong?
No, procrastination means that you
Let's put
waited
it
too
off,
long
yeah.
to try. You put a thing. I studied.
What is that
That's
called?
why I feel confident in it.
What is it called when you pick games? It starts with a P. It's pro something.
I don't know. I am a pro.
Prognostication.
Or something.
I am a pro at it though.
You are. I like what you're hearing. We are too. We just can't be. You know what I'm saying? we have to bite our tongues and keep our mouth shut on who we think is going to win here. All right, let's move on right here. All right, here we go. Beckett, is this one of yours? No, this is back to Chandler Tyree. No, you know what? Yeah, let's kick this one. Section Appalachian.
Yeah.
Kick us off, Beckett.
Yeah, Section had a tough loss last week to Cedar Bluff. Still looking to turn that corner. Coming in 1-4. Appalachian, pretty good football team this year. For Section, Jeremiah Dixon, Isaac Saavedra, both had 13 tackles. That's a lot of tackles. Aaron Thomas highlighted them, 12 of 23 for 168 yards and a touchdown. And also Jackson Leroy threw 1 for 1 for 60 yards. On the other hand, on the other side, Appalachian is really, they're really doing some really good things. They have a 42-8 win. They've got a 33-14 win. So they are scoring some points. They're outscored opponents 151-84, sitting here 2-0 in the region and undefeated at they're 1-1 at home. So anyway, Appalachian's rolling. Section needs something good to happen. When you're that underdog, you got to have a couple prolific plays. You got to have turnovers, and then you got to hang on for dear life when if you're able to get ahead. So Appalachian's obviously their 23-point favorite there.
Section's got a really good logo though.
Oh, they got a sick uniform.
Yeah.
Chandler, I want you to talk about this one a little bit. Becky, you can jump in there as well. Susan Moore, Aniana. Interesting situation that Phil Phillips is in. He's 0-4. Now, whoever would have thought that, I'd have took a lot of money and put it the other way. I'd have no way. But they are in that situation, and now you got Susan Moore, who's right down the road. I'm not going to call it a rivalry, so to speak, but these two teams know each other, and these communities know each other. Susan Moore 2-3 on the year, traveling up to Aniana. Either one of you guys can take this.
Susan
right
Moore
here.
is coming off a very physical game against a very good ball team. Aniana has struggled all year long. This is a game where they're and Susan Moore is 2-3, but this is a game where both of them are going to be playing with a lot of pride. Especially Aniana, they're not used to being 0-4. If I'm not mistaken, they are the most winningest program.
They were tied with T.R. Miller at 726 wins apiece when the season kicked off.
All right, so they are second. My
Second
bad.
now.
They are second in all-time wins for programs in the state of Alabama, which has some pretty storied tradition. But so Phil Phillips, one of the better coaches in our state. Like one of the comments is trying to get us in trouble. I will not go there. But listen, there's a reason why they're struggling, and let's just be real. Like Fluff Bothwell absolutely ran all over Appalachian State last Thursday night. Like he's going to be a stud at South Alabama. Like he don't look like a true freshman walking in there. No. He's a guy that's been very difficult to tackle, and they had some really good players around him, and that's why they've been successful as they've been. But sometimes you go through those years. There's some schools that don't have a whole lot of those years, and that's Aniana. But it's inevitable to sometimes have some years where you just struggle. I don't think it's that their kids are not playing hard. I think they're probably playing a bunch of young kids. We saw Alexandria last year go 1-9. We see how much better they've gotten in a year's time. Right. I don't see Aniana staying down for long. I see them playing really hard this week. I think both of these teams come in and really compete. Susan Moore has a Helmet of Sticker Award winner in one of our previous weeks. They've got guys that can make plays, but I think Aniana plays with a lot of pride this week, and I think they're hearing all the noise that everybody else is saying, and I look for them to really compete and have a good ball game this week.
This next one, I'll go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, if you're Susan Moore, you're looking there, and it's a one-sided rivalry. Aniana leads it in series 55-22-4. They are local, they're close, but and I may be off here, and they blew them out. They beat Susan Moore 40-0 last time. But if you're Susan Moore and you're looking at an 0-4 big powerhouse team right down the road, you're sitting there going, hey, we may have a chance this year.
And
that's exciting.
You got to think this in the back of your head, Beckett. If we're ever going to beat them, this is our shot.
This is the time, and it's huge for that program if you could do something like that.
All right, this next one we're all three going to talk about. This is the game of the week outside in our coverage area for sure. Outside of Auburn and Moody, if you said that one's a bigger game, okay, we'd say 1A, 1B. We're going to talk about the Fife Red Devils. This is one everybody's asked me. I've been asked 100 ways from Saturday about this game. Myself personally, we'll all three talk about this one. We'll spend a little more time on this one because it's 6:52. We don't go to break till 7. So, guys, Fife 3-1 on the year, had that tough loss to Pisgah. Coosa Christian 4-1 on the year, had a tough loss to Pierce County on the road. Both of these teams are elite. Both of these teams are threats to carry home blue maps this year. Both of these teams are loaded with talent. When you look at this game, it's a 3-point line. They've definitely corrected the way they've measured Coosa Christian of late. Mm-hmm. They were only a 7-point favorite last week, week 4 last against Falkville. They were only a 16-point favorite over Susan Moore last week. And we saw how those games ended. I think
that their first game of the year kind of skewed that a little bit.
But what they had to go off of, I heard, is a computer rating. So they had to go off of last year, and last year they had to forfeit 5 games. So yeah. I think that factored into that, but they've updated it. Yeah. Now it's 3 points, so I think this line's pretty accurate to what most people would think it would be. Chandler, you kick us off.
I got a couple of questions, and I'm going to bounce this off of y'all. One, will Logan Anderson play? That's a big question. Will Logan Anderson play for Fife? And then my question mark about Coosa Christian going into this game if they have not had played Pell City. Now I know Pell City, their record, they've only won 2 ball games, but it's a 6A program, and if there's a strength for Pell City, it's their defensive line. So this is why I'm going there. I would have questioned, can Coosa Christian's offensive line stand up against that run defense and that defensive line and the physicality of Fife? But I know how good some of those guys that play for Pell City's defensive line are, and they were able to control the offensive line, control the line of scrimmage, control the trenches all night long in a 17-7 win. But Logan Anderson makes a big difference. And I know it's going to be a run game against run game, even though Coosa Christian can't. But Coosa Christian has a four-headed monster at running back as well. And I think the kid from Tennessee that moved in, I think he's going to be eligible to play this week.
He's healthy.
He's healthy.
He's been in that nursing ACL.
He's been hurt. I went and saw some stuff. I think
Last week
he's
he
going to be
carried it
able
2
to
times for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Pretty good night. But that's my kind of questions to y'all. And Bo, how healthy is Logan Anderson?
I think they expect Logan to play for sure. I don't know the number of snaps. I know Logan. If you ask Logan, is Logan going to play? Logan's going to say yes, he is. But it's all about team up there. So whatever's best for the team. If the doctor says he's not ready to go, then they're not going to play him. And Logan Anderson is a generational player. He's not a good player. He's not a great player. He's a once-in-a-generation type player. And that's no disrespect from anybody who's played at Fife or anywhere else around here. But I'm telling you, you don't find that size and speed in a human being.
Unbelievable.
And play like he does. And to be the highest recruited player of my knowledge since Coach has been there, that says all you need to say about the man. My keys, and there's a couple keys in the game for me right here. Weather. If it's just put the ball on the ground, run it straight up.
That benefit Fife?
That would benefit Fife, you would think, on paper and everything else. Wind can factor into throwing the football. Then the familiarity, I think that's how you pronounce it, of Teddy and what Fife does. Because Teddy was in that program. He, Coach Benefield took him on, and Teddy learned a lot about football and a lot about life under Coach Benefield. So he's familiar with that program.
That weight room that Teddy's put in has completely changed the
Learn
game.
from Coach Benefield, but Teddy has morphed now. Teddy does some different things. He took all that, soaked that in from Coach, and now has been under Mark O'Brien, learning different side of aspects and different kind of toolage. And along with Rush, he's learning things now. So Teddy's grown as a coach, and obviously, Paul Benefield is the second winningest coach in state's history. He's got 7 rings. You don't have to say any more about him. Yeah, he's pretty solid. But then it comes down to players and execution. So who's deeper? Players like Simon Hicks that don't get mentioned.
Tucker Wilkes.
There are several kids. Lyles at center is a very important person on that line because he's controlling the ball every snap.
Yeah.
People don't talk about him. It's Wayne Lyles' son. That's the superintendent
also,
at
the center,
DeKalb County.
The center is actually called to do a lot in that offense.
Yes, you're right. So there's several players who don't get mentioned every week that's going to have to play big in this game. And look, you don't mention them because it's one of those things where that's good. You don't have to mention Lyles. He didn't have bad snaps or something. You know what I mean? There are several things that's got to go right for both of these teams to win. I don't think either team's going to intimidate the other one whatsoever. And I do believe this will be the most physical football game. And this is saying a lot because I was at Gunnersville and Arab last week, and I called that one. We made a post and said how physical it's going to be, and it was as advertised. This is going to be one of the most physical, hard-hitting football games that we've seen in a long, long time. And my breakdown is this. Who executes the best is going to take it to the house.
Hey, I feel like the Justice kid at Coosa doesn't get enough credit either. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks.
Really JD, I agree.
Throws it well, controls the game well, gets the ball in playmakers' hands. And Eli Moats is a really good player as well. Cleet is a really good player. He's an old school.
Franklin and Coosa, being lined up against Tucker Wilkes. There's a huge matchup.
Yeah, there's matchups everywhere on that field, and I think a lot of players on both sides are going to take things personal because they've heard about the other guy from the other team since the beginning of the year when everybody knew this matchup was happening.
That's right.
And so there's going to be a lot of things that are taken personal in this game, and I can't wait to watch just the individual matchups that a lot of people are not going to think about.
Look, Larrick Williams. It's time for him to shine against perennially one of the greatest well-coached defenses in the state. How's Alaric going to perform?
Yeah, and golly, I first started being around, Brian Mashburn, which Fife guy was, I was coaching with him, and he said, "Hey, let's go. I want you to come check this out." Coach Benefield was at Sylvania. This is the early '90s, and this was some really big games, and he had some undefeated regular seasons, and man, you didn't take but a second to realize this is this guy's on a different planet than what the rest of us were on. And we're seeing, you're seeing one or two players, and he's seeing the whole game in slow motion. So, and those kids are just, they're built a little different. I mean, and I've taken coaches from all over, and I say, come watch them practice up here. Saying that, though, as good as they are, Coosa's, rightly or wrongly, they're not scared. They're not backing down. They're not intimidated. A lot of people, the name wins at this point, deservedly so, and they're not, and which you don't need to be. If you're going to have a chance, you need to believe in yourself. Defense, I think it starts with defense. They allowed 10 first downs last week, and a lot of that was in mop-up duty, but only gave up 51 yards rushing and 46 yards passing. Again, these percentages jump out at you. 2 of 11 on third down is what they gave up, and they gave up 1 of 4 on fourth down. It caused 3 fumbles. Recovered all 3, blocked a punt. All those intangibles, the giveaway, takeaway, the kicking game, they're doing really good at that. You mentioned Cleats obviously standing out, but there are other guys that are. You sit there and Mostella's really good numbers. You're setting defensively and what he's doing, and Mickler and Pierce, and they've got so many. There again, O'Brien and Franklin. So anyway, defensively, I think is where it starts. Offensively, Terry had 147 yards, 2 touchdowns off just 2 carries. You mentioned Justice, quarterback, the trigger man. So they have moved the ball all year. They've moved it on the 6A team. They kicked the ball really well. And it's on a Thursday. I'm so excited.
So far,
to
the
get
coach
to
said
go.
they're going to decide tomorrow at Wednesday.
Yeah, and it could be rough, and I'm hoping it's to where I hope that thing diverts, because
He says if it don't, they're moving it to Friday.
yeah, and I'm really hoping to get to see this thing, and we're interested to see how it plays out, because Fife they out physical everybody, and something's going to give here, one way or another, and again, Fife's played in so many venues. They don't seem to be
Business as usual.
It's business as usual.
Yeah.
They don't. It's a faceless opponent there. So hey, man, let's see what happens.
Guys, we're going to take a quick commercial
Before we
break.
take a break, can I correct something real fast? I said eligible earlier. I meant done rehabbing. Like, the kid's been eligible the entire time. I saw him this summer. Knew he was hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted to correct that and make that right. Wrong word, take him out.
he had an injury that he's just got back from. That's correct.
He was rehabbing ACL or something.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
May not believe it, but it's true. The 2024 Team 1 Chevys are here. All 23-24 Silverado light duties have 2.9% financing for 72 months. The hottest new 24 Team 1 Chevy Blazer, 1.9% financing and no payments till April. And the #1 selling family vehicle, the Equinox, 24 models. You got it. 1.9% financing and no payments till April. Team 1 Chevrolet, home of the best people, the best service, period.
The Point at JSU is an off-campus student housing property located a half a mile away from Jacksonville State University. The Point offers fully furnished, pet-friendly, 2 bedrooms and 4 bedroom units. Resident experience is our #1 priority, therefore we do offer the following amenities: a resort-style pool, fitness center, basketball and volleyball court, and dog park. We would love for you to come see our property, so give us a call at 256-376-8317 to schedule a tour today.
What can you buy for $10? A hat? A milkshake? 166 channels plus live sports? That's right, for only $10 you can get 166 channels of classic TV shows and movies, including the latest news update from all around the world and local sports. Just simply go to 24ctn.com and click download, and then for only $10 you can have access to the best TV available.
At Southern States Bank, we pride ourselves on being your bank. We're your neighbors and involved in the community. We're the bank featuring the Southern Rewards checking account, a cashback account with no ATM fees. We are on the cutting edge and always have a smiling face to help you out. So come to Southern States Bank, where we are committed to great service and being a great neighbor. Let us be the bank for you and your business.
May not believe it, but it's true. The 2024 Team 1 Chevys are here. All 23-24 Silverado light duties have 2.9% financing for 72 months. The hottest new 24 Team 1 Chevy Blazer, 1.9% financing and no payments till April. And the #1 selling family vehicle, the Equinox. 24 models. You got it. 1.9% financing and no payments till April. Team 1 Chevrolet, home of the best people, the best service, period.
All right, everybody, welcome back in. Appreciate you guys staying with us through the commercial break. Let's jump right back into this thing. We're going to go down to 1, and then we're going to work our way up to 7 and come back this way. Coach Beckett, you ready for this one, buddy?
Let's roll.
I sat out with these guys this week, sat in with Coach Ragsdale. He's feeling good about his team right now. They went on the road and got a very, very big win last week at Valley Head. They seem to be rolling. They got things put together over there at Spring Garden. They're 5-0 on the season. You don't have to go in there banging on trash cans and throwing stuff to get everybody's attention this week. They got a rival in Cedar Bluff coming up who's 2-5 on the season. Cedar Bluff moved up to 2A, so this ain't a region game any longer. But talk to me about this game right here, Beckett.
Well, first off, you look at the all-time, lifetime Cedar Bluff. It's real one-sided, so it doesn't take much. Spring Garden feels like that's one that you can't. You can't beat enough to try to catch up. And you look at what they did. There were some people going, hey, are they going to be back to where they want to be? Let's look at helmet sticker candidate Connor Bates. He turned out 269 yards, 2 touchdowns on 14 carries. John Welch did
He had
what
the flu or something, too.
So he had a Michael Jordan game there.
Yeah.
So John Welch added 150 yards, did what he does, another score when carried the ball 6 times, 32-13. Huge win against Valley Head last week. So we had a question going in. Is Spring Garden going to come back to where Spring Garden has been? The answer is yes. They are heating up at the right time. Cedar Bluff, on the other hand, big win last week. Starting to get a couple of their guys out. Some of their guys are stepping in. Bryson Teague stepping in at quarterback, a guy that hadn't played a lot but has a lot of potential, hadn't played a lot of football, and came in big at quarterback. Hunter Jenkins came up big, so big win last week for Cedar Bluff against Section. And this is one Cedar Bluff stole one last week, got last year against Spring Garden. So big county rivalry.
You know what? I forgot about that.
Yes, sir, they did. And so big win for Garrett Crane last year. 25-point favorite to Spring Garden in a county rivalry, and that's something that doesn't happen a whole lot. So big game there.
There he goes. Victory Christian, 2-1, taking on Francis Marion. Talk to us about this one.
Victory's lone loss this year is to a very good Wadley team, which was really close early. Victory's moving in the right direction, and then they get a chance to play Francis Marion, which is 0-4. So another chance. Listen, when your program has been down a little bit, there's nothing better than to be able to win ball games, but you got to win the games that you're supposed to win. There's nothing like being at a school that's struggling and you don't win the games that you're supposed to win. Like that's debilitating. It's heartbreaking. It hurts your program. I see Victory continuing to improve, and I think they will be better and better as the year goes along. They don't have to play another Wadley, which is one of the better teams in Class 1A. May have a chance to win 1A with some of the players.
They're one of the better teams in 1, 2, or 3A.
Yeah, so they've been doing what they did to Victory to everybody, and so I think Victory continues to improve, and hopefully they can get to 3-1. That would be a huge deal to start the year out 3-1 for Victory.
Talk to us about Winterboro, who's 3-1. They're a 9-point favorite over a 3A Weaver, who's sitting at 0-4. But don't let the
This is a sleeper game for me. And Coach Skylar Mansfield does a great job at Winterboro. We talked about last week how there's a lot of excitement at Winterboro. We talked about last week because of the closing down of TC that they had some other players that are now part of that Winterboro program. And then Weaver. I mean, you look at Weaver. Coach Ken Kofer does an outstanding job. He has a really good staff. They're working extremely hard. They came up short in a game a couple of weeks ago to Sachs. offensively clicking on all cylinders against Ohatchee last week. Just they couldn't get a stop. I mean, Ohatchee went back to scoring 60 plus again, which is they have a high-powered offense.
You gotta have to score to beat them.
Yeah,
period.
you got to score to beat them. But Weaver has a guy that, I mean, it's just an unbelievable story, a miracle that he's on the field right now. And Caden Gooden, who continues to play well, had a really good game last week against Ohatchee. Keyshawn Allen's a guy that's a nightmare matchup. I can't talk all of a sudden.
Two catches for 98 yards, man.
Listen, who is
He had 2
favored?
catches for 98 yards.
Who's favored in this game?
Winterboro's -9.
Yeah,
Winterboro by 9. I feel like this is a sleeper game. Byron Stinson just said on Facebook, just commented that Weaver is way better than their record, and I agree with that.
I agree with that.
When Weaver gets everything clicking, I think they're going to be tough still. They've got some games that are winnable left on their schedule, and I think Weaver. This game is a game I'm intrigued by. I know Winterboro's a really good ball team at 3-1. The only loss coming to Vincent. I'm intrigued by this ball game. It's at Weaver. I think Weaver will play really hard, play with a lot of pride, and so I'm intrigued to see how that matchup
Man,
turns out.
Caden Gooden, 14 carries, 100 yards. Look at these, 5 of 9 of 214. So they're starting to move the ball.
Yeah,
you know,
no
and
doubt.
Coach Kofor knows his offense.
Beckett, talk to us about this Fayetteville and Raglan game.
John Limbaugh, Fayetteville, he feels like that they are improving. They're getting better. They're getting competitive. You know, they've moved down to 1A and feels like they got a chance to. He really likes numbers-wise. They were really small 2A before. And Raglan's coming in. Struggled a little bit, but starting to get better. A lot of coaches are telling me how athletic they are. Should be an intriguing matchup at Raglan. May give them an advantage.
All right, let's jump up to 7A and the 7A crosses. This one right here, I'm going to touch on this one real quick myself. You got Auburn, Keith Etheridge taking this game at Moody. Supposed to be scheduled Thursday. Is weather going to play into that one? When you look across the field, Moody's 3-2, but they've lost to Oxford and they also lost to Gainesville, Georgia. So there's nothing to hang your hat down. You know, Keith Etheridge beat rival Opelika. They're 11-point favorite in this one. Everybody in the community up there in St. Clair County, if this was played on Thursday, they would be 9,000 people in the stands. And I'm not joking, if the weather permitted. Now, if the weather's awful and they still play it, that's going to cut down on that. But everybody comes out because Moody has assumed that role where everybody's like, hey, they're hot, they're winning games, we want to see if they can get beat at home. So everybody's going to come watch that. Well, Jake Gaines plays spoiler in a lot of these situations. Beckett, when you look at this game, do you see a scenario where they can beat Auburn, who's a 7A power, who's top 3 in the state in 7A? I know they can keep it close. Do they have enough manpower to go ahead and beat them?
100% the same formula Coosa went with, play anybody, anywhere, get battle tested and really do well in your classification when you're playing up in really strong teams. Auburn, what I've seen of them, though, really, man, I really like Keith's team. Yeah. Keith, last time I talked to him, was really excited about them. I like what Moody's doing. Moody will play with them. I can tell you that. Oh, they'll play with them.
What I like about Jake Gaines, anytime, anywhere mentality, and when he rolls over into the 5A playoffs, and he's already played Gainesville and Oxford and Auburn.
There's nobody going to scare him.
Nobody's going to scare him.
And has a win against 6A Helena.
You got that right. And a very good 6A Helena team with Richie Busby. Beckett, I want you to take this one right here. Valley Head at North Sand. Interesting fact about this one. Valley Head 4-1 on the year. North Sand is 4-1 on the year. And guess what? This line is a pick'em.
Yeah, which is... to be honest with you, that's a little bit of an interesting line. North Sand is good record, but they're really young. I think Valley Head is battle tested, but there again now, I felt like that was going to go to the wall against Spring Garden, and Spring Garden said, no, sir, that's not the way it's going to be. And but I really think good things about Valley Head. So we'll see. Is that North Sand?
Here's my question about the game, and I think you agree with me on this. You have to be willing to get your nose busted if you're playing Valley Head. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to take some blows. They're going to put you in a phone booth, and they're going to find out if you want to play football or not. If you don't want to play football, you're going to get beat. If you can stay in there and withstand some of those blows, then you got a chance.
And last week, 49 plays, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns. Got slowed down a little bit. Had one 100-yard rusher in Bain. Had 18 carries, but that's not the crazy numbers that Valley Head had. And they got bled, a little bit and forced a punt and no big plays. Can North Sand follow that same formula? They've had some big wins so far.
Hey, and kudos to Spring Garden's defense because they played their guts out.
Told me
now.
a lot about Spring Garden when they were able to do that.
All right, we're going to jump down to we still got some 7 and 6 crosses right here, so we're going to go Gadsden City, Beckett, while you're pulling up your notes right there. Let me talk about this one. Bob Jones, 7A Bob Jones, who has student-wise is one of the top 3 biggest schools in the state of Alabama. They're 3-2 on the year, 7A. They're traveling to Gadsden City, and Reggie Davis is getting a memorial given out in his honor before the game, which is huge for Average Joe's and Reggie's family. As much as Reggie Davis loved Gadsden City, this is huge for us, and we will have representatives there at that game for sure. Talk to us about this one, though. 3-2 on the year, coming down to Gadsden City, who's 3-1 on the year. This is an interesting football game.
Yeah, and you. There again, we wondered how the not getting to play the week before was going to affect them. They went into Hazel Green, got a win, marched on in the region and remained sitting there undefeated. So they're in a really good spot. Bob Jones now, a lot of eyes on them. A lot of people saying really good things. Gadsden City's another one. Play anybody anywhere. So we'll see. Gadsden City's got some big weapons. Can they be prolific? This is going to be a toughie, and I'll tell you a little bit about what Gadsden City's going to do as far as making a run. They're going to make the playoffs. How deep will they go?
That's going to be the question. Beckett, kick it to you one time. You seem to be our 7 and 6A expert today. We got Grissom, who's 1-3. Who desperately needs a win, traveling over to Albertville, one of the most beautiful football stadiums in the state, some of the best facilities overall in the state right there in Albertville, Alabama. If they can catch up with their facilities there, Albertville will be tough in the future. But talk to us about this game. Albertville desperately needs this one, but so does Grissom.
Yes, and definitely needs something good to happen. The numbers was not a good outing last week for Albertville. And they have been moving the ball on everybody. They're sitting there. I don't know if sometimes you get frustrated. You're sitting there and you're battling people, and you're moving the ball. Or maybe it was because they were playing a really good opponent. But you're sitting there, and Parker, Revol, Laredo just didn't have the numbers last week that they'd been having. Need something good to happen. Grissom's a game that I think is going to be on the table.
Yeah.
Even though it's a 21-point favorite, can Coach Brown keep motivating them, keep them pushing on, and try to get that big win? Like we were talking Chandler last week, man, it sure would be a relief to get a big one.
That would be a huge one right there for them. Chandler, I'm going to kick this to you. We're kicking right down here in 6A now. We're going to have a 6A cross, and you talk about a mother load of a football game. It's a 3-point line. It's the undefeated Oxford, who's traveling to Helena to take on Richie Busby and company. Helena, we already know how good they are. We saw them just, recently barely lose that football game, but then Oxford's rolling into town 5-0. Oxford's been tested of late. Talk to us about this football game.
Yeah, you look at Helena won their first 2 ball games against McAdory and Chittenden County. And they've lost their last 2, but they played Spain Park, who's one of the better teams in Class 6A, and lost that game 28-26, and then got beat by a really good Moody team who got beat by a really good Oxford team by 3 points earlier in the year, and that was a 1-possession ball game as well with Moody and Helena. Coach Richie Busby does a really good job over there. Oxford has just got to put a whole game together, I feel like. Oxford's a very good team, and Oxford is 5-0. But I can tell you from watching the film and then also talking with Coach Adams, they don't feel like they're anywhere close to have put in a full game together yet. They don't feel like they're anywhere close to where they could be, which is a good thing. You don't ever want to be a team that peaks too early. You want to keep getting better and better as the year goes along. Oxford hadn't been completely healthy on the offensive line since the first series of the Moody game. They've had to plug and play on that. They were tested last week in something that I think was a big test for them because they have an undersized defensive line and they're really good, but they're undersized. So last week they had to play a team that loves to run the football, has a really good offensive lineman that could really move well. They ran stretch really well. They did a whole lot of different motions and shifts that hurt Oxford in the first half. I was really impressed that Oxford, the adjustments they were able to make at halftime to kind of limit some of the chunk plays in the run game that Mountain Brook was getting early. And so, but you get another test here. I think Helena's one of the better teams in Class 6A. They got beat by a team that could end up winning a 5A state championship, and they got beat by a Spain Park team that could also make a run in Class 6A. I think Helena's another test. Oxford is one of those teams that is not going to be, there's nothing that's going to surprise them when they get to the playoffs because they've already been battle tested. Last week, Mason Mims completed 30 of 43 passes for 354 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And I ask you, and those are amazing numbers. We've said he's going to play on Saturdays. He is a year 2, year 3 starter.
Yeah, Jeff Brom's going to love him.
Do they want to throw 44 times a game? Is that where they? You know,
I think I think it depends on what the other team, what they're giving. I think Mountain Brook tried to do a lot of exotic things. They tried a lot of run blitzes and a lot of things to get pressure on him. As I think it's like whatever the other team's giving. Some of that was quick screens. Some of that was like halfback screens, but they like to throw the ball out in the flat and let their guys make plays. So a lot of these passes right here are just extension of the run game. But when you got a guy like Jalen Taylor who caught 10 balls for 115 yards, Wilson, who caught 8 passes for 103 yards, and then Nick Richardson, who had 7 catches for 100 yards and all 3 of the receiving touchdowns, you'll do that. I thought Caleb Wynn made some big plays in the screen game and draw game, and this one's going to be another barn burner for them. They got to keep getting better. I think they're improving defensively. They got to find their identity and figure out what they do, which if Chad Cochran, who's one of the best defensive coordinators in the state, will continue to figure that out. Really impressed by the offensive line, though, and what they were able to do from one week where they struggled to the next week where they only gave up 1 sack against a team that was bringing pressure all night. That's a testament to Coach Jeremy Tapley and the job that he does. One of the most underrated O-line coaches in the entire state.
Beckett, Boaz, ready to roll in this one, man. Tough non-region matchup versus a semifinalist in 3A last year, Geraldine. It's an 8-point line. Boaz is going to Geraldine. Talk to us about this one.
Hey, obviously, Boaz is doing some really good things. Got a big win. They're sitting there 8-point favorite. Childers did what he does last week. They took care of business. It was close for a while with Douglas, and and I felt like Douglas could play with them, but man. Pierce is a special player, and they have a lot of weapons. So obviously they can put up the points as we kind of knew going into the season. You look at Geraldine. They're not your average 3A. They're outscored opponents 161-29. Sylvania could have been kind of a blip. They're a young team and getting better every week. Scored 55 points last week. Can they step up in the big boy league and play with Boaz? I think they can. How long will they be able to play with them? Would depth become a factor? Can they find a way to neutralize that passing game? Man, fascinating matchup.
That's a very fascinating matchup.
Boaz has a lot of weapons, and Coach Sullivan does a great job there. I know he's still not happy with the way they play defensively going back to Scottsboro, so I think that's something he's going to continue. And once they get that defense where they're playing at the same level as their offense, they're going to be tough to deal with.
Kicking this over to you, Chandler. Mortimer Jordan, 1-4 on the year, surprisingly, after watching
Mortimer
them.
Jordan is a really good program. Being 1-4, that's very surprising.
Well, I seen them up close and personal on a 7-on-7, and they got guys. I'm shocked by that. Now they have played Parker and others.
They were at the Genesis 7-on-7 at Coosa, and I was like, man, this team's gonna be good. Like they had very good talent, really good quarterback play. And listen,
they're traveling to Fort Payne now.
7-on-7 don't always translate.
That's true.
I've been a part of teams.
Some people are 7-on-7 champions only.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
and
they
then
are.
on the other hand, some people are terrible at 7-on-7, but then they're
really
great.
Good. A lot of running teams, but it gives you an insight in their athleticism.
Fort Payne really they've got it going the past 2 weeks. They started out with 2 losses, and everybody goes, what's going on? This is a 6A playoff team. And their offense had been struggling. They got it really, really going last week against a much improved Mae Jemison team who's very athletic. We talked about them last week, had 2 guys coming off the edge. Coach Bradley Ball does a good job at Mae Jemison with their defense. Coach Rico White, who used to be at Anniston, has done a really good job. They're moving in the right direction. But last week, Fort Payne kind of controlled that game from start to finish with a 49-6 win. Dax Varnador is a guy, a seasoned vet for them at quarterback. They just got to keep getting better, keep improving. They've got some games that they can win further on into their schedule. you got to look at who they started out with. They started out with Scottsboro, and everybody's like, what happened? And then the next game was against the number 1 ranked team in Class 5A, Guntersville, and they lost it by a single possession. So 2 losses to start the year against 2 really good teams. I think Fort Payne's moving in the right direction. I see them continuing to fix their season.
All right, we're gonna jump back over to 3A. We're gonna try to knock all of these 3A outs before we go to commercial break in 6 minutes, and we're gonna get rolling. Beckett, Westbrook Christian, 5-point favorite, going to Mumford. It was 1-3 on the year. Interesting game right here. I think both of these teams are better than their records right now, and I think you'll agree with me on that.
Yes, I really think Westbrook is headed places. And they're in the SEC of a heck of a darn region, but I think Brody Blevins has had a monster year. He's not a sophomore anymore. He didn't have the big throwing night. He still rushed 19 carries, 103 yards. And Brody Johnson still had a bunch of catches, 56 yards on 4 catches. Gonna have to get a little more offensively and continue to grow up. Challenge going up against Mumford. We got to see a little bit of them this summer. So another intriguing matchup as Westbrook plays up.
Unfortunately, nobody's talked about Tank Amundsen for Mumford. He rushed for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Handley. But you are exactly right.
He was a helmet sticker winner.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Both of those teams are better. Both of those teams are definitely better than what their record shows.
Beckett, keep it right here with you. Sylvania, 11-point favorite, traveling to now 4A Plainview, who again, we're talking about teams I think is a little bit better. You have an SEC coach on the sidelines over there for Plainview. Talk to us about this one and how this is going to be an intriguing matchup.
Well, and obviously Plainview, the series is pretty one-sided. Plainview's won a lot of games, so that's something to shoot for if you are Sylvania. Been able to play with them here of late. You look at it, Aiden Parham does what he does: 20 carries, 313 yards. He is a potential nominee for a helmet sticker. Had 6 touchdowns.
Another day at the office.
Another day at the office. Griffin Turner, big night. Throwing, he was 12 of 14, 140 yards. Game manager, threw for a touchdown, and the offense moved the ball the entire night. Starting to get into a groove. At the same time, Plainview, they're getting coached up. A lot of young guys that will get better every week because you're dealing with a royalty. That's high school royalty when you get in the Pruitt family.
Hey, I know we're short on time, but I got to say, we know who the helmet stickers are this week, and we dropped the ball on Aiden Parham. He is an honorary helmet. I will get him another graphic made and add another helmet because he's already been at one time. Anytime you rush for over 300 yards and have 6 touchdowns by yourself, you got to be a helmet sticker. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We dropped the ball on that.
We will get him taken care of.
We will get him taken care of.
All right, kicking this over to you. Ohatchee, 28-point favorite, traveling to Donahoe's 1-4.
We already talked about Ohatchee, 3A versus the 1A matchup. Ohatchee, unbelievable offense. Jake Roberson, 15 of 20 last week for 270 yards and 4 touchdowns. Braden Collins caught 6 for 183 and 3 touchdowns. Nate Jones rushed for 172. Jaden Hurd had 123 rushing yards and added 43 receiving with 2 total touchdowns. Offense is unbelievable. Still got to improve defensively. Gave up over 35 points last week to Weaver. Has lost games because they've been outscored, and I say outscored because they've scored in every single ball game, and so got to improve defensively. Donahoe is still, I don't know who made this schedule for Donahoe, but why would you schedule Ohatchee? And like I'm not saying anything. I know Bill Smith, I know they're trying to win football games, and we're scheduling a 3A offensive powerhouse in our non-region game, in a game that we don't even have to play.
Hey, this is a Bill Smith team, though. It's a good sign with Kai Keckler, 16 balls there, 194 yards and a touchdown. They're starting to make strides. They're starting to head in the direction.
They really are.
Yeah.
They've had to play Winterboro Wadley. All right, they beat Raglan, they had to play Galesville, whose running back went off for 300 yards the night that they played them. Ohatchee is a better team than what their record shows, and when they get in some of these other 1A matchups, you're going to see that. The guys are playing hard. They love Coach Smith over there. I stopped by after they beat Raglan, and just to see the guys come up and talk to Coach Smith, which I knew was going to happen because Coach Smith loved his players. But Ohatchee is just Ohatchee's a possible 3A playoff team. Like I said, they got an unbelievable offense, but Donahoe's a lot better than that record, and Coach Bill Smith and defensive coordinator Marshall Clark and the rest of their staff are doing a good job.
All right, guys, we got about a minute. We're definitely going to knock this one out, and then we're going to roll when we come out of commercial break. B.B. Comer, Adam Fawcett, traveling to Piedmont. Hey, kudos for Piedmont for scheduling this. Piedmont's always been a anytime, anywhere school. This proves it, because when they scheduled this game, B.B. Comer was on top of the world.
Yep.
Things has changed a little bit for Fawcett this year. Had some injuries, had some guys graduate.
Well,
Piedmont is rolling. Talk to us
It's
about
kind of
this
like
one.
same situation with Aniana. Anytime you lose a guy like Kamar Harris, who is playing at Memphis now, I believe, and actually getting some carries, anytime you lose a guy like him, that's going to hurt your program. They're super young. Give them 2 years, they will be right back to where they were at. Piedmont is 4-0. Piedmont is back where they were at. I think a little bit ahead of schedule of what people thought. They look really, really good under second-year coach Jonathan Miller. 38-10 last week against Westbrook Christian without their starting quarterback Cole Wilson. Raleigh Pinto accounted for 195 yards and 3 touchdowns. Hayes Gunn rushed for 73 yards. Piedmont rushed for 271 as a team. They are getting things rolling. They are kind of finding their identity. They are playing well. I feel like they're getting better week in, week out. Also, what's it going to take for somebody to offer Raleigh Pinto? Like, well, what's the man got to do to get some offers? What has the man got to do? He's been a human highlight reel so far this year.
You're asking the wrong person, because I'd already offered him. So I don't care who you are. Guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to knock out the rest of these games, and we will have our helmet stickers. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Larry May. I've been in the entertainment business for over 25 years. I've written for the local paper. I've interviewed a lot of touring artists and local artists here. And what I figured out is how much talent we have here in Alabama. That's why we put a new show together for you called Entertainment Alabama. Come watch us for the hottest new acts and some of your favorites that are national touring artists.
Come out and check out the Alabama Tractor Difference. We can take care of all your needs of parts, sales, and service for RTVs, zero turns, and tractors and construction equipment. See us here in Lincoln at 620 Speedway Industrial Drive. Or come visit us here in Asheville at 275 6th Avenue, or give us a call at 205-594-7000.
At Bentley Prosthetic and Medical Supply, we care about you. We offer custom prosthetics, orthotics, diabetic shoes, and durable medical supplies. We're located here in Alexandria, Alabama, where it's a country feel but professional care. Come see us today.
May not believe it, but it's true. The 2024 Team 1 Chevys are here. All 2324 Silverado light duties have 2.9% financing for 72 months. The hottest new 24 Team 1 Chevy Blazer, 1.9% financing and no payments till April. And the #1 selling family vehicle, the Equinox. 24 models, you got it. 1.9% financing and no payments till April. Team 1 Chevrolet, home of the best people, the best service, period.
All right, everybody, welcome back into Road to the Blue Map. We are going to get rolling right here with everybody. Let's go ahead and knock out our 5A games. Let's go with the big dog right here, who is, we overlooked this one as Game of the Week. I forgot about this bad boy. This one for sure is Game of the Week nominee. So we have a 1A, 1B, 1C. This is an undefeated. None of the other ones are undefeated. This one's not only undefeated, it's a 5A versus 5A. We're talking about Scottsboro right here taking on an undefeated Clay Central. Both of these teams are in the top 10 in the state. Beckett?
We know they're good. Now, if they go toe to toe with this crew from Central. Listen, now we're not just talking about good. We're talking about maybe make a run.
That's right.
This is a
this is a playoff implication.
This
for sure.
checks your oil right here, man. Fascinating game.
Why is nobody talking about Central Clay County?
Well, I think it's the same thing every year. It's because they're out there on an island by themselves from a
Is it
media standpoint.
Clay, is it central fatigue? You know, like you had Alabama fatigue
I don't
winning
think
so much.
so. I think it's.
I think it's because, and this is no shot at the county. That's just the media is not right there. They're kind of out by themselves. Now we always pump them up ourselves, but this year, you know, we're fixing to include them in our weekly, even though they're not in one of the counties.
They don't have anybody that sits there in politics for their kids for All-State.
When you look at them, like Deshaun Gibbons, obviously we talked about Benefield earlier. Coach Horn's one of the better coaches in our state. He's won at 2A level. He's won at the 6A level. He's won multiple state championships at the 5A level too. And so
8 rings.
Yeah, you look at a guy who has done it at all levels. It's one thing to win at the lower levels or win at the higher levels because, hey, some of those guys that are at bigger schools, it's tough for them to go to smaller schools and win. Some of those guys at smaller schools, it's tough for them to go to bigger schools and win. His plan, the way he does it, works everywhere. We've seen that. He's got really good players, Deshaun Gibbons, Damari Whetstone. You've got LaDamian Boyd. You've got a bunch of, I could keep going on and on, Tyler Boyd, Wilkerson. You got a bunch of really, really good players there. And I feel like because where they're at, they don't get talked about. But I can tell you 3 things. They got a really good football coach, they got a really good football team, and they got some great hunting land. And so I can tell you those 3 things. But Scottsboro, we talk about Jake Jones, we talk about Coach Van, and I said it last week and I'll say it again. Coach Van can coach. He's going to be one of the premier coaches in this state before it's all said and done. Like, we already know that, but I think everybody else is going to know that. He did a great job at Sylvania. He's going to continue to do a good job at Scottsboro. He is one of the premier head coaches, does an outstanding job, really does a good job of bringing bigger and better things to every program he's ever been a part of.
I think it was you that said he does a great job on branding.
This is an exciting game for me because can Scottsboro step up to that plate against, in my opinion, a team that's legitimately got a chance to win the state championship in Class 5A? And can they show that they're ready to be on that stage with that team?
And this is going to be in Scottsboro,
it's at
Alabama.
Scottsboro. That's
this is going to be a madhouse.
That is a huge game to have at Scottsboro. That's a big time game, big time night, and I'm excited for the people of Scottsboro to be able to host that game.
And it's a 4-point line, so everybody expects this to be a very close game, including ourselves. Let's go to Corner, who's 4-0 on the season. 7-point favorite, traveling over to Coach Smith and company in Jacksonville.
Yeah, you're talking about a 5A Corner that is undefeated. Jacksonville has lost 3 straight. You hadn't been able to say that much here lately. But you got to think about who they've played. They've played Leeds, they've played Moody, and they've played Centerpoint. 3 really, really good opponents. But things don't get no easier. Like I said, undefeated Corner team who already has a win over defending 5A runner-up Ramsey under their belt already this season. That's going to be tough. Thankfully, Jacksonville gets this game at home. Can they change their luck at Golden Eagle Stadium? A guy that's going to have a big night, who had a big night the other night, Zay English rushed for 196 yards the other night, almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in a losing effort to Leeds. They've got to get things rolling back in the right direction. They got to figure out how to get some things going in the passing game, and they've got to figure out how to shore up some of those things. They're giving up. They're because of what Leeds did, there was a lot of gashed run plays and wrong fits. Defensively, they got to fix that this week. I know that the coaches will do a good job to get that fixed. They have a great coaching staff up there at Jacksonville.
St. Clair County, 1-3 on the year, is traveling to Shelby County, who's 5-0. Talk to us about this one. Beckett, you want to take this one?
Well, you know, St. Clair, they've had a murder's row of some games that they played. They're going into a really good opponent, and that's been one of their Achilles the last couple of years. They've got good players, and they've just played some really tough opponents. You just got to stay with it. Obviously, got a really good coaching staff. And some really spot here and there, some really good players. You know, it doesn't get any easier, though. Here they go to Shelby.
Yeah, and you're talking about a 5-0 Shelby team here.
Yeah.
I want both of you guys to speak on this game right here because it's each one of you guys' counties that you both talk about. We got Alexandria as a touchdown favorite at Sardis. This is a winnable game for Sardis, but they're going to have to play very good because this is a much improved Alexandria team. Sat down with B.J. Brooks this week. He feels very optimistic. Look, when you're replacing 10 starters on offense and then you turn around and lose, I'm not going to say how many people, but because we don't want to talk about injuries, but when you're replacing 10 starters on offense and then over half of them gets injured, and you're down to ninth graders who should be playing in JV games in big starting roles for you, that's not a recipe for success. But Beckett, talk to us about the Sardis line.
Well, on the Sardis end of things, you got to, BJ, and I try to encourage him as well. When you're in these situations, you're building on something. You got a lot of players that'll be back. Hey, let's get as much out of this season as we can, and try to win some games here and there. Obviously, hadn't scored a lot of points, 6-7, 0-7. BJ's an offensive mind, and you've got to heat up that offense a little bit. And this is a manageable game. It's a game that I think that they can play with them. And, they're 0-4 lifetime against Alexandria. Alexandria beat them last time in 2019. You can't, they haven't been able to say that a lot in their history. I think maybe they can play with them. We'll see.
I think so. From the Alexandria standpoint, what do you see in this game, Chandler?
Cole Wheeler completed 9 of 17 passes last week for 157 yards and 3 touchdowns. Always a good thing for Alexandria when they're able to get the passing game going. Elijah Hunter had rushed 15 times for 101 yards and had a touchdown. And then they have a weapon. If it's a close game late and it's a one-possession ball game, if they can just get it inside the opponent's 40, Cleet Forrest has an opportunity to win them the football game off of his toe. He had a 51-yard field goal last week. So anytime you have that weapon in high school football,
51 yards.
Yeah, anytime you can kick it into the end zone and get touchbacks and not have to worry about returns, and then you can kick 50-plus yard field goals, that's a weapon to have in high school football. So Alexandria is definitely improving. I think Sardis will play extremely hard, and if Alexandria allows Sardis to hang around like they did Aniana last week, they could be in for a dogfight at the end of the ball game because we know B.J. Brooks is going to do a really good job coaching his team up.
Ain't no doubt about it. Hoax Bluff, undefeated, coming off a huge win. I was sat in with Coach Rob today, and guess what he was preaching to me? No letdowns. When you come off a big win, it tends to happen in football. You know it as well as I do, Beckett. Obviously, from your coaching days, when you have big wins, teams tend to not come in. Who was it? We seen Northern Illinois beat Michigan and turn around and lost conference game to Buffalo or somebody this year. But talk to us about this game because this is a rivalry.
All right, hey, let's look at Hoax Bluff. We felt like they could play with Anniston, but how many people were picking them? Not a lot, man. They just keep on doing it. They're beating really good people. Look at them defensively. I really like their offensive line. I really like what they're doing defensively. Blake Green, 12 tackles, an interception. Connor Ford, 11 tackles. Anderson Morgan, 6 tackles, 5 breakups. Colton Shields, a sack. Clayton Hams, 3 tackles for a loss. Man, look at that defense and what they're doing week after week. Blake Green with a helmet sticker nominee. On their end of things, keep doing what you're doing. Another hated rivalry. I'm not going to say to the extreme, but those two have gone back and forth to the, seems like from the beginning of time. You're always, if you're Hoax Bluff, it doesn't matter the records there. That's one of those. Glencoe is Glencoe.
Beckett, from the Scott Martin standpoint, you're sitting here at 1-3 on the year. They definitely did not expect that. They were expecting high hopes coming in. What's Coach Martin saying to his guys? He don't have to slam stuff around and get them ready for Hoax Bluff.
No, not at all. And there again, had a week to heal up. Had a week to, totally study Hoax Bluff. They're ahead in that category, and their physical brand and put it in a box always gives people problems because they do something different. So, hey, if they beat Hoax Bluff, that's your Iron Bowl, that's your Super Bowl. Glencoe, that's not Coach Martin's goal is to go one and whatever, but I'm just going to tell you it will make everything a lot better.
I'll tell you this, a long time ago, I interviewed for that job way before Coach Martin was there, and in the interview, they talked about the Hoax Bluff game. They have an ultimate disdain. That's a rivalry. That is an actual.
That's
they don't
one
like
you don't
each
want to
other.
lose.
They don't like each other.
All right, this next one, before this season started, and I seen this schedule and I seen this team drop down, I said, whoa, you talking about some athletes going to be on the field. We're talking about Anniston is traveling over to Pleasant Grove. So you're talking about Darrell LeBeau versus Rico Jackson, 2 great men, great leaders of young men. This is a game with some athletes on both sides of the ball. Anniston got to be ready to get back out on the field and right the wrong from last week when they got beat by Hoax Bluff. Talk to us about this game right here.
Yeah, and y'all are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but I think Anniston matches up. High school football is all about matchups. I think they match up with Pleasant Grove better than they matched up against Hoax Bluff. I thought Hoax Bluff was big and physical up front. I think that they do a lot of things right. They had a JV kid that got moved up because of injuries that ran for over 150 yards and will no longer be playing JV according to Coach Robertson. Yeah. He told Coach Rico that. And the Whitaker kid can absolutely fly. Coach Rico told me that he's one of the fastest kids they face, and just what they do and how they lean on you. They control the time of possession. Pleasant Grove has the Washington kid, who is an unbelievable player, wide receiver, DB, electric in the kickoff game, return game, all that stuff. If they kick it to him, they're crazy. I said it, like kick the ball, punt the ball into the third row, squib the kickoff. Do not kick it to that kid. He's really good. I think he's had a punt return or a kick return in every game they've played. Wow. And he's electric. Anniston is moving in the right direction. They're 2-2. They have 2 really close losses. I think Anniston's got to play a really clean ball game to have a chance. Pleasant Grove has 1 loss on the year to McAdory, but Pleasant Grove's a really good football team. Coach LeBeau does a really good job with their offense. Coach Leonard Davis, who was on my staff at Mumford, does a really good job as their defensive coordinator. They got a bunch of guys on both sides that I'm familiar with, so I'm intrigued by this matchup. I know neither one of them will admit it, but it means a little extra to both of them. But the good thing is neither one of them are playing. The kids have to go out there and make plays. It's going to be a tough place to go play. But I look forward to this matchup. I think it's going to be a really good matchup between 4A Anniston and 4A Pleasant Grove.
Beckett, you want to talk about a team that's better than what their record? We're talking about Douglas right here. They're sitting here at 2-2, but look who their losses are to. And I mean this wholeheartedly. They're a better football team than the record shows right now. Well, then you turn around and you schedule this non-region game against New Hope. You think, you know what, this is going to be a manageable game. We didn't know this is a New Hope team that's going to score 70 in a game, 55 and 60 in a game. So this has become a really interesting matchup right here. Tell us what you know about this New Hope versus Douglas.
Well, you know, and early on, Douglas was, you know, they were blow for blow with Boaz, but Boaz did a good job. They limited Kasem.
4 turnovers in the first quarter.
Yeah, he had 2 interceptions, 7 of 24. That's not him. 110 yards. You know, and hats off to Boaz defense, man. That was a definite team helmet sticker of sorts. Keelan Green, 13 carries for 107 yards, 1 TD. Brody Campbell, 4 catches, 61 yards. Got to get a little more output. You're going to have to score points. New Hope's going to score. They're going to score.
They're going to score.
You know, and
unless they have to play North Jackson's defense.
Yeah, and do you want to get in a Big 12 kind of really high number? Or do you want to, you know, I think Douglas has got to get it in the 30s to 40s. You know, if it's one of those crazy numbers, I definitely favor New Hope there.
Beckett, this one right here is a huge matchup. The Battle of Highway 77. The Etowah Blue Devils, 1-3 on the year. Desperately need another win. Coach Peavy got that win last week, his initial win at Etowah, but they're traveling to Southside, and Coach Stewart desperately needs a win. Had Fort Payne beat, ended up losing in the last second. This is a rivalry matchup right here. These two teams are not too fond of each other. Both these teams need a win. Big rivalry. Talk to me about this game.
Hey, good to see that. These two hadn't played in a long, long time, so I think it's good for football anytime. Or they played last year, but I'm just saying there was a break. Good to see these two teams back playing. Etowah, good. That was a really good sign. Sism last week, 15 of 18, 181 yards, 75 rushing, 3 passing touchdown. When he does that and he lights up the scoreboard and they play some pretty good defense, man, you know, Reeves, 7 catches, 134 yards. When that kind of stuff starts happening, Divine, 2 interceptions, when that kind of stuff starts happening, you know, that tells you they're starting to get there and they're starting to get where Coach Peavy wants them to be. Southside got the week off, had a week to to prepare and start to get their mind right. We were talking about playing, last year, 45-27, Southside won, and I think Etowah can definitely be in this game. Southside's got to get more points. They've had 13, 31, and 13. I think this season is still very much alive for them. I think they very much can find their way in the playoffs, and if they'll continue to fight and get better and trust in Coach Stewart, man, I think there's a lot ahead for them.
I can breathe a little bit. That's 2 schools that we cover, do their coaches show, and I'm afraid Beckett was going to pick against one of them.
There we go.
Yeah,
Two
and
really good coaches, man. I love these two guys, man.
right there, I don't
It's our
know.
first time getting to know these two
Really
coaches,
good
but
guys.
great two guys.
I don't know who I picked there.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it
a
could be a
tough one.
goodie.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Hey, let me tell you this. Walter Welborn is surprising some folks this year. Not the people around here, but around the North Alabama. You look up, Walter Welborn's 4-0. They're rolling. They're another double-digit favorite versus Cleveland County this week. Talk to us about this, and we got about a minute to
Yeah,
do it.
Jackson
then we gotta get
Newton
on our
rushed
stuff.
for 192 yards last week. He's a really good player for them. They rushed for 331 as a team. Here's one thing that Welborn does have to fix, and I think this is why that game was a little closer than what everybody thought going. 135 yards and penalty yards last week. That has to improve.
not good.
That's not accustomed to what a Jeff Smith coach team is. And he's not going to be very happy about that. I see them fixing that and getting things moving in the right direction, not having 135 yards in penalties. So that's got to fix. Coach Von Lee's doing a really good job at Cleveland County. It was a 14-14 ball game at halftime last week against Booker T. Washington. This game will be closer than what the experts think. I think Cleveland County's starting to believe, and they're starting to trust what their new staff is doing.
All right, it is helmet sticker time. This is our favorite time of the week. We like to solidify these guys' performances by giving them helmet stickers. We wish we could give a lot more helmet stickers out, but we already give 2 each, sometimes more than 2 people each. So we're going to kick this thing off, and I'm going to kick this over to my man, Chandler Tyree. Kick us off with who you got with your first helmet sticker.
All right, I just talked about him for the Welborn Panthers. Jackson Newton rushed for 192 yards on just 17 carries with 2 touchdown runs. I think a guy that did exactly what he needed to do to help his team win, help them control the game, helped overcome those 135 yards of penalty yards. You know what that tells me? He probably would have had over 250. Some of those got called back because of penalties. But a guy, 192 yards on 17 rushes and 2 touchdowns. Big game for a big-time player who will continue to have big-time games this season for the Welborn
What a
Panthers.
good-looking helmet that is, too.
That is
Love
a
that
sweet-looking helmet.
All right, surprise, surprise. Mine is, guess who? Dino Embry for his 4th helmet sticker. We're fixing to just change his helmet to a helmet sticker. That's what we're going to turn into. He plays for the Locust Fort helmet stickers. Here's why. We don't want to have to pick Dino every week, but listen to these numbers. He had 372 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. 372 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. Then he threw for 194, so we're only 6 yards short of 200 passing for 2 more touchdowns. Think about that for a minute, guys. 194 passing, 372 rushing, and 7 touchdowns on the night. Dino Embry was leading the nation in rushing, and I think they said someone has passed him now that they've updated everything. But at one point, he was leading the nation in rushing this week, and I posted the graphic about it, so I'm sticking to my guns on that one. Mr. Beckett, it's your turn.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
You talk about Dino, a guy by the name of Rick Carley, who a lot of people are familiar with. I think he saw your post, and he made a post as well. He said they should probably call him Bam Bam instead of Dino, the way he's been running the ball. So pretty cool. Kid's getting a lot of publicity, a lot of coverage, and he deserves every bit of it.
I appreciate Rick Carley because he does run from time to time with our stories, and, and that's good
he does
for
a good
these
job.
athletes.
Yeah, anytime we can get more
All right,
coverage.
I want to talk about Gunnersville's Brandon Ganaris. He had a 25-yard game-winning field goal to win the game last week against much-hated rival right down the road, Arab. Arab had to. It looked like they had a chance to, win that game. Now you got to understand, huge, jam-packed crowd. A lot of, as time expired, they flood the field. Students flood the field. First year to play. Kickoffs going in the end zones. Punts between 35-40 a game. Perfect on field goals, extra points this year. Hats off to that young man.
I was at the
Wasn't you
game. I was at the game, Beckett, and he's a left-footed kicker. So the amount of pressure that built on that, it was amazing to watch him because it was never in doubt. When he kicked it, he knew it was going through. Kudos to him. He did kick the ball well all night.
Go to Average Joe's. Go to the website.
Yep.
You can see the game-winning field goal. Great job.
100%. Mr. Beckett, right back to you. Who is your second helmet sticker?
All right. Hey, we thought it would be a down to the wire. It was not between Spring Garden and Valley Head. Connor Bates, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns on 14 carries in the win over previously top 10 Valley Head.
Hey, with the flu.
With the flu.
So I'm excited about that young man. I got to see him and visit with him today.
Time out. He ran for that many yards with the flu?
His flu-like symptoms. He had to go home at 2 o'clock to go get a shot from the doctor. So yeah, he was was not feeling good. And,
like that kid.
And in Coach Ragsdale's own words, he said he looked like chalk. He was
like that kid.
Like gray looking. He looked terrible is what Coach Ragsdale said. He went and got a shot or something at the doctor and went and performed and did 269 yards versus Valley Head at Valley Head.
Wow.
That's saying something. All right, guys. My next one, I have a dual helmet sticker here. And this one is for Coach Scott Peavy and Etowah Blue Devils because these two offensive studs, I want to call them, you're looking at Bennett Reeves and Jamison Sism. Let me throw these stats at you. Bennett Reeves, kudos to them, first of all, for multiple reasons. Both of these guys can play quarterback. Bennett Reeves and Jamison are best friends. Bennett Reeves is a huge target at tight end for them. He caught 7 balls for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. These two guys' relationship on and off the field is what makes this happen. Jamison Sism is the trigger man there at Etowah. Check these numbers out. He rushed the ball 10 times for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And you want to talk about efficient. He was 12 of 15 passing for 176 yards and 3 touchdowns. So 291 total yards for Jamison Sism, 5 touchdowns. Again, Bennett Reeves caught 134 of those yards and 2 of those touchdowns. So mine is a double helmet sticker for the Etowah Blue Devils in their first win of the season with Bennett Reeves and Jamison Sism.
You know, those two guys are, and then a lot of they wouldn't what they were last year. I don't think people realize how good of a player Jamison Sism is.
It's unbelievable.
Like, he's really, really good player.
No doubt. Your turn, Mr. Chandelier.
All righty, mine, and you can call me a homer all you want to, but the stats back it up. And a huge win in one of the biggest games. I think big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. And I think a lot of the times, you can put up stats in a game that don't really mean, but this was a big game against a ranked 6A opponent, a huge region game on the road. And Oxford's Mason Mims throws for 354 yards, 30 of 43 passing, and mine's a dual one as well. His counterpart, Nick Richardson, had 7 catches for 100 yards and had all 3 of the receiving touchdowns. But both of them had the biggest play of the game, and it ain't even in the stat sheet. 2-point conversion, 28-27, less than 20 seconds left in the ball game. They run a whip route. Mims makes a perfect throw. The guy that he's thrown that route to for overall 150,000 times, according to Coach Sam Adams, makes the catch to make it 29-28. And not only do they get it for their stats, but they get it for making a big time play in a big time situation. That's what you want, a helmet sticker. Get the stats, but also make those big time difference plays.
All right. We got about 3.5 minutes here, but 3 minutes now officially. Beckett, your points you want to see this week?
Well, if I can take time and go just off just a little bit, I get a text at the end of the game last week that George Hobbizel passed away. He was somebody that meant a lot to me. Coached at Piedmont, 25 years in Alabama, 25 years in Georgia. Played baseball at Snead and basketball at Jacksonville State. Really good at Anniston. Impacted my life. A high school coach impacted him and changed his life. Didn't have a father, and 11-time region champion. And I just got 2 state championships over in Georgia. We watch film over and over, and I cannot tell you how he impacted me. So meticulous, and had a place where you could eat out for 4, and we executed like I've never seen anything. So, man, I just want to send out condolences to his family and all those that, because it hit a lot of us. James Thompson passed away at Asheville. Coaches can really impact lives, and I just wanted to close by saying how important they can be. You do make a difference, all you coaches out there.
I knew James Thompson personally, and that one made me sick at my stomach when I heard that and seen that today. It really disheartening on that end. He has one of my best speeches I've ever seen as a coach. I'll explain that later. I got a few key points, and I'm going to run through them real quick because we got about a minute and a half here. I want to see Scottsboro and Central Clay. I want to see Scottsboro's offensive line that has been leaning on people all year, how they stand up against the physicality of Central Clay. And I want to see Jake Jones versus that Central Clay defense. Jacoby Edmondson. I want to see what he does versus that Central Clay defense. And that game right there is going to tell a lot about the 5A playoffs in the North. Next one, Anniston, Pleasant Grove. Two of my favorite coaches out there. I want to see Anniston, how they respond to a loss, and I want to see how we do with Pleasant Grove coming up right here, because this is another playoff implication game. And then finally, Fife versus Coosa. I want to see the chess match between Paul Benefield and Teddy Whitmire. Two opposite ends of the spectrum, defense, offense, and I want to see the players, who's going to step up in that game.
I'm intrigued by Cherokee County at Shades Valley, a game we didn't get to talk about. 6A matchup for them against a 4A team, against a 6A playoff team, Moody and Auburn, Scottsboro, Central Clay County, Oxford, Alena, Fife, and Coosa. And then my last thing is, how does the weather affect these ball games? Do we have to move them? Does it affect the play of the game? How does this hurricane that's coming in affect us and our games?
I will say this, Fife and Coosa will make a decision tomorrow by 1 p.m.
Okay.
Their decision will be made tomorrow by 1 p.m. and when we find out, you will be the first to know. How long do we have here, guys?
We got 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Okay.
So we got 10 seconds, guys. We want to thank Watkins Heating and Cooling Countertop Creations.
Always.
You need strength, resilience, and hope to face life challenges. And I found all three at Gaston State Community College. I'm Jada Pickens, an office administration student at Gaston State's Ayers campus in Anniston. Along with attending classes, I work